Shortly after my husband's funeral, I attended my nephew's first birthday party. During the celebration, my sister dropped a bombshell. She claimed, "My son is actually your husband's child. So, as part of his inheritance, I'm entitled to half of your $800,000 house." She even produced what she said was his will. I simply responded, "Oh, I see," trying my best not to laugh, because After my husband's funeral, I attended my nephew's first birthday party. My sister announced to everyone that her son was my late husband's child and that she was taking half of my $800,000 house as inheritance, even showing me a will. I barely held back my laughter. My name is Bridget. At 34, I never expected to be a widow. 3 months ago, my husband of 11 years, Adam, died suddenly from an aneurysm. A few days after his funeral, I dragged myself to my nephew Lucas's first birthday party. It was there my sister, Cassandra, dropped a bombshell, claiming Lucas was Adam's son. She presented a will to everyone, claiming half of my $800,000 house. But what she didn't know was why I was fighting back laughter. If you've ever dealt with family drama, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. You won't want to miss what happens next. Adam and I met at a charity auction for children with cancer. He outbid everyone on a watercolor painting of the Boston skyline that I had admired all night. He walked over to me and gave it to me, saying it belonged with me. That was Adam, thoughtful, observant, and incredibly generous. I fell for him hard. We had our first date the next night, and it felt like we had known each other forever. He was a corporate attorney, brilliant but humble. 8 months later, he proposed on the harbor. We bought our Victorian home in Beacon Hill for $800,000 shortly after our first anniversary. Adam had just made partner at his firm, and I was building my interior design career. The house was a fixer-upper, but it had great potential. We wanted to fill it with children, but after years of trying, tests, and 4 failed rounds of IVF, we gave up on that dream. I remember Adam holding my hand on the quiet car ride home from the last failed attempt. "We can still have a beautiful life," he said that night on our porch swing. "You and me, that is enough." And he meant it. We traveled, focused on our careers, and renovated our house into the home I had always imagined. Our life was full, just different from what we had first planned. My youngest sister, Cassandra, 4 years my junior at 30, was always a shadow in our happiness. The wild child of the family, she bounced between jobs and relationships. My parents constantly worried about her, making excuses for her and bailing her out of financial trouble. Our relationship had always been complicated. If I achieved something, she needed to one-up me. When I started dating Adam, she became interested in law students. When we bought our house, she complained for months about her apartment, hoping our parents would help her upgrade. It was exhausting, but Adam always encouraged me to maintain the relationship. 2 years ago, Cassandra started dating Tyler, a bartender with tattoos and a motorcycle. Their relationship was volatile, full of dramatic breakups and passionate reunions. Then, at Thanksgiving dinner the year before Adam died, she announced she was pregnant. I felt a familiar sting of jealousy after all our struggles, but I pushed it down and was determined to be the best aunt. Lucas was born a healthy baby. I was at the hospital with flowers and a handmade blanket. Cassandra seemed overwhelmed by motherhood from the start, often calling me in tears. I stepped in as much as I could. Adam was less involved with Lucas, and I assumed it was because of our infertility struggles. He was always kind to Lucas but kept his distance. Then came that terrible Tuesday. Adam complained of a headache before leaving for work. "Just a migraine," he insisted, kissing me goodbye. The call I got from the hospital said he was already gone. A brain aneurysm. He was 36. The next few days were a blur of grief. Cassandra was strangely absent, claiming Lucas was sick or she couldn't find a babysitter. When she did appear at the funeral, she left quickly. I was too numb to think much of it. A week after we buried Adam, Lucas's first birthday arrived. My mother insisted I go, reminding me that Adam always said, family comes first. I drove to Cassandra's small rental house with a gift and dark circles under my eyes. I put on a fake smile and knocked on the door. Jenna, a friend of Cassandra's, opened it. Her voice was strained. "Oh, Bridget, you made it," she said, glancing over her shoulder. The house was full of blue balloons and whispering guests who fell silent as I passed. In the backyard, my parents looked uncomfortable. "Bridget," my father said, embracing me, "we weren't sure you'd come." I mingled awkwardly, accepting condolences. Everyone seemed on edge. After 30 uncomfortable minutes, Cassandra emerged with Lucas. She was wearing a new dress and looked giddy, full of unusual confidence. She got everyone's attention by tapping a spoon against a glass. "Thank you all for coming to Lucas's special day," she began. "I've been keeping a secret, one I can no longer hide, especially after recent events." A chill went down my spine. Something was wrong. "Lucas is not Tyler's son," she announced, her eyes meeting mine. "He's Adam's." The world stopped. Gasps filled the air, but all I heard was a rushing in my ears. "Bridget's husband and I had a brief affair 2 years ago," Cassandra continued, her voice steady. "It was a mistake, but these things happen." I stood there, frozen. My sister was claiming she had slept with my husband and that her son, the nephew I adored, was his. It was so absurd I almost laughed. Cassandra reached into her purse and pulled out a folded document. Adam knew the truth about Lucas. Before he died, he updated his will, she said, holding up the paper. He wanted his son to be provided for. This will states that half of the house Adam and Bridget owned should go to Lucas. Every eye in the yard turned to me. I saw pity and morbid curiosity. My parents looked shocked. To everyone's surprise, a smile tugged at my lips. It wasn't a happy smile, but the kind that comes when something is so ridiculously false that it's comical. I pressed my lips together to contain the laughter. "Oh, I see," I said, my voice calm. "May I see this will, Cassandra?" Her confident expression faltered. She handed me the document. I scanned it quickly, immediately noticing the inconsistent, formal language and a polyforged signature. I carefully folded the paper and handed it back to her. "Thank you for sharing this with me. I think I need to go now." "That's it?" Cassandra asked, confused. "You're not going to say anything else?" "Not right now," I replied calmly. "This is Lucas's day. We can discuss this privately later." As I walked to my car, I could hear the party's shattered atmosphere. Once inside, I let out the laugh I had been holding in. Tears streamed down my face, a mix of grief, anger, and disbelief at my sister's audacity. Because there was something Cassandra didn't know, something Adam and I had never shared with anyone. Something that made her elaborate lie not just hurtful, but impossible. The truth about Adam and Cassandra began 3 years ago. We had invited my sister over for dinner to celebrate her new job. I had to take a white call, and when I returned, the atmosphere had changed. Cassandra was sitting closer to Adam, her hand on his arm. I thought nothing of it, but that night, Adam told me Cassandra had made a pass at him. He had rebuffed her, and she had laughed it off as a joke. I wasn't surprised. Cassandra always pushed boundaries. Over the next few months, she found ways to touch Adam when I wasn't looking, sent flirtatious texts, and once showed up at his office uninvited. Each time, Adam told me, and we decided to create distance. We declined invitations that included her, made sure we were never alone with her, and Adam blocked her number after she sent a suggestive late-night message. Then came the medical issue that changed everything. Adam had been in pain for weeks before seeing a urologist. The diagnosis was a varicocele, requiring surgery. During the procedure, the doctor recommended a vasectomy to prevent recurrence. It was a difficult decision, especially given our past fertility struggles, but it was the right choice for his health. We kept this private. After years of invasive questions about our childless status, we had learned to protect our privacy. The only people who knew were Adam, myself, and his doctors. As he recovered, He made a prediction that seemed paranoid at the time. Cassandra isn't done, he said. I have a feeling she might try something more drastic. The next week, he scheduled an appointment with our family attorney, James Wilson. I went with him as Adam detailed Cassandra's behavior and his recent medical procedure. James recommended documenting everything, so we created a file. Adam also updated his will through official channels, leaving everything to me. We put all the documents in a safety deposit box. The morning after Lucas's birthday party, I went straight to the bank. I opened the box Adam had jokingly called our disaster preparation kit. Inside was everything I needed. Adam's legitimate will, medical records detailing his vasectomy 2 years before Lucas's conception, a journal documenting Cassandra's inappropriate behavior, printed copies of her texts, and a letter from our attorney. At the bottom, a sealed envelope had my name on it in Adam's handwriting. With trembling fingers, I opened it. My dearest Bridget, it began. If you are reading this, something has happened to me, and you have needed to access these documents. I hope it is many years from now. But if not, if the worst has happened and she has tried to hurt you in my absence, please know that I tried to prepare for every possibility. Use these documents to protect yourself. I love you beyond words, beyond time. Whatever happens, know that. Adam. Tears streamed down my face. My practical, thoughtful husband had anticipated this. I carefully put everything back in the box except what I needed. Copies of the medical records, the legitimate will, and some journal entries. Then I called James Wilson and scheduled an appointment for that afternoon. James, Adam's former mentor, was devastated to hear about him. I explained what had happened at the party, showing him the forged will. This is an amateurish forgery, he said. But the fact that she created this at all is deeply troubling. I showed him the documents from the safety deposit box. Adam was nothing if not thorough, James said, reviewing the materials. These medical records alone disprove her claim about Lucas's paternity. It's biologically impossible. What should I do? I asked. I don't want to publicly humiliate her, but I can't let her take half of our home based on a lie. James recommended hiring a private investigator to look into Cassandra's motivation, as people rarely attempt fraud without financial pressure. I agreed, and James called Frank Delaney, a former police detective. 3 days later, Frank called for a meeting. He had uncovered some concerning information. Cassandra was in dire financial straits, with over $75,000 in debt and facing eviction. Tyler, the real father, had abandoned her and Lucas, moving to Seattle with a new girlfriend and paying minimal, irregular child support. Frank also found damning text messages from Cassandra to her friend Jenna. Adam's death is terrible, but maybe it's finally my chance to get what I deserve. That house is worth at least $800,000 now. If I play this right, I'll have a nice nest egg for Lucas and me. The will is almost ready. My friend Dave is good with Photoshop and found a sample of Adam's signature online from some charity auction. It looks totally legit. Bridget has always been the golden child. Time for me to get my share. She got 11 years with a great guy. The least she can do is share the wealth now that has gone. I felt sick reading her calculated coldness. Frank also ran a background check on Tyler and found a history of domestic violence and a warrant for unpaid child support for another child. I sat in stunned silence. My sister was not just desperate. She was willing to destroy Adam's reputation and our marriage to solve her problems. What do I do? I asked, looking at James and Frank. Lucas is innocent in all of this. He's still my nephew. James explained my options. File charges for fraud and forgery, which could land her in jail, or handle it privately by confronting her with the evidence and working out an arrangement that protects both me and the child. I left with a heavy heart and a folder full of evidence. That evening, I called my therapist, Dr. Laurel Chen, for an emergency session. In her office, I admitted how angry I was, but also how I couldn't let her get away with it. Compassion doesn't mean allowing yourself to be victimized, Dr. Chen said. You can be kind while still establishing firm boundaries and consequences. I decided on a course of action: confront Cassandra privately with all the evidence and offer her a choice: face potential legal consequences for her fraud, or accept a compromise that would provide for Lucas while requiring accountability from her. I called Cassandra the next morning. "We need to talk about the will," I said. "Can you come to my house tomorrow afternoon?" "I knew you'd come around," she replied smugly. "I'll be there at 2. The next morning, I set up a recorder on the coffee table. "I hope you don't mind if we record our conversation," I said. "It seems prudent given the legal nature of what we're discussing." Cassandra hesitated but agreed. She then launched into a well-rehearsed story about an affair with Adam. "He always meant to tell you," she said with practiced sincerity. I listened without interrupting, noting the inconsistencies. When she finished, I began asking questions about the hotel, the room number, the days of the week they supposedly met, details only someone who had been intimate with Adam would know. Cassandra grew flustered, and her answers became vague. "Why does any of this matter?" she snapped. "The will proves Adam wanted to provide for him." "Actually," I said, opening my folder, "both of those claims are demonstrably false." I placed the medical records on the table between us. 2 years before Lucas was conceived, Adam had a vasectomy. It was physically impossible for him to father a child. Cassandra's face went white. She picked up the records with trembling hands. "These could be faked," she said weakly. "They are not," I replied. "And Adam's doctor is prepared to testify." Then, I produced the legitimate will. This is Adam's actual will, properly filed with the court. It leaves everything to me, with no mention of Lucas.